Are you the guy behind the curtain? Everybody, this is Tim Pierce. Hey. So, Tim, rumor has it you've played on over 1,000 records. They don't call them that anymore, by the way. They call them downloads now.
I just referred to something as a telephone today, so I had to correct myself. If you go to allmusic.com, there's a list of, they have over 1,000. You hang around long enough, you can do just about anything, I think.
That's one way of putting it. It's an honor to have him here today, and we wanted to come and talk to everybody about how to solo over chord changes. And it's not well known that when Carlos Santana is playing Magic Woman as the chords are changing, he's changing the keys that he's playing in.
Absolutely true.
He's playing over changes. If you listen to Smoke on the Water, Ritchie Blackmore's, it's 2 chords, and he's playing over changes. Yes. If you listen to 25 or 6/4, it's in A minor, but he's playing a major 7th in there because there's the E chord at the end of the first thing. The major 3rd is a major 7th. So we're going to talk about how these musicians think about playing over chord changes. Does that sound like fun to everybody? Yeah. All right. The other thing that we wanted to do was Tim brought some backing tracks that he can play over. So that's a food that you can't buy at the grocery store. And hopefully we could get you to play a little bit for everybody.
Of course.
But if it's okay, Tim, I'd like to kind of interview you about how you think about it. And I know prior to us sitting and doing this with everybody, you and I think about it very similarly.
Yes, we do.
All right. So in the world of playing over chord changes, basically you have 3 parts of music. You have rhythm, which is there's no notes to it, okay? And then you have melody, which the definition of a melody is a string of notes that sound like one thing. That's the definition. Da, 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 da,
okay, good definition.
Yeah. It's a string of notes, and you know what it is, right? And the definition of harmony is playing more than one note at a time, right? And there's a real art to how to play melodies over harmonies, which we're going to get into deeply. And the way that it's set up in the music business, it's set up with talking about Dorian modes and pentatonic modes and this mode and that mode and Phrygian this and that and there. And then, thank God for Nashville, they come along and says, nah, we're not going to do it that way. We got a number system.
Yeah, and that's how you and I both think.
That's how we think. Yeah. So instead of going do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, I'm thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then starting over again, 9 is 2. And we think of it in those terms. And when the reason they invented it, which is extraordinary, is the singers were changing keys. Can we take it up a half step? And they didn't want to rewrite the chart. So they just did it in numbers. What was the one? And then you knew what else to do. Because in that town, the key was everything because the singer had to find the sweet spot and you didn't want to rewrite it.
Yeah, I did a session with Faith Hill once where we tried every key, every single key, and then came back to the first key.
Seriously?
Yeah. I mean, I lost it. Mike Landau was there too, and he had it covered. But by about the 10th key, I couldn't figure out where am I. Yeah.
Brent Mason tells the same story about a Hank Williams Jr. session in which they had started with a G chord and he wanted a different chord, and they tried every single one. And 2 hours later, they played a G, and he goes, "That's it."
Yeah. That's usually what happens.
That's usually what happens. Yeah. So, to me, playing over changes is extraordinary. And so let's just start with this, Tim. So somebody got you playing on a tune, and there are changes under the solo which were part of the chart that you were assigned to play.
Yeah.
And then you've got to play the solo. How do you think about that in terms of, I know how I start. I want to know whether it's major or minor, and I want to know whether it's violin minor or regular pentatonic minor or whatever it is. Look, playing around with a sixth we'll get into before time goes on, but how do you think about it?
Okay, so for me, the names don't appear. I know all the modes, but I have to re-remember. If I'm going to teach the modes, I have to refresh myself. I Google it, and I there's Dorian, there's Locrian, there's Phrygian. I know them all. I see them. They're imprinted in my mind. I see them on the guitar. So back to your question, there's a chord change. So we'll do something really simple like E minor. And I'm going to tune before we do this because everybody's going to be better off if this guy's in tune. I lowered the action, and
It was in tune when I shipped it, Tim.
yeah, I know. Well, if you would just install some sort of really heavy electronic device that'll keep this
Isn't that
guitar in
wrong?
tune, like something like a 5-pound box that
I'm
would
sorry.
keep this in
I
tune.
made a bad joke.
Yeah, well, I was trying to make a joke too.
I know.
Okay, so let's say it's really simple and it's E minor, C, and D. I might ignore the chords and just play in E pentatonic minor. And then I'll find safe places to land, and all I do is look for the chord tones. On the C, on the D, and then back up to E. So the chord tones are like stones in the river. You always want to be able, there's safe places to land. And you can kind of do both. You can ignore the rules or obey the rules. And you can
What are the rules?
Well, that you would play in the right key and that you would land on a chord tone. And then E.
But you're saying one of the rules is to arpeggiate the chord in the solo.
Yeah.
Never heard
I
that
made it
rule.
up.
Never heard that rule.
Okay, so I've had no schooling. Have you had schooling?
The answer is yes and no and yes and then no and then unbelievable yes. So can I answer the question?
Yeah.
I went to jazz school
Okay.
because I was the bass player in the Starliners, which was a jazz band in our town. And I didn't know how to read the charts, and I faked my way through it, and it was bad. Then I wasn't schooled and got in rock bands and started to learn. And then I ended up with a guitar teacher named Ralph Perucci, who was taught by Billie Holiday's guitar player. And he started to explain things like this to me. One day I spent 2 hours trying to find the interval in the chord for this one change so I could change keys and have it work, and I couldn't find it. And I called him and I said, Ralph, I spent 2 hours trying to find this inversion. I can't find it. He said, Paul, there's only 12 notes. Try them all. And I can't tell you how many times where Mia will be singing, and she's singing an interval, and it's not the right one, and she's only got 11 more to try.
Yeah.
I mean, and I find that magic that there's only 12 of them, and you've already tried one.
Well, and they all can work. I mean, one of my favorite things is the major 7. Oh, come on, let's get volume. I love that. But it's the most dissonant interval there is, aside from this one.
That's the bad one.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, that interval is in Spanish music.
Okay, you're going to show me.
Yeah.
What key do you want to be in? D minor?
Yeah, just E major. E major.
D major. Got a tune, guys.
All right, so tell you what,
Yes.
you can do it. You can do the most dissonant note of all time is considered one of the most beautiful.
I'm embarrassed. I got a tune. I'll get it going for you guys.
So what
Close
we're
enough.
talking about here is playing this note against this note. But it can be absolutely beautiful. So you play in E Spanish, and I'll play rhythm underneath you. Okay,
great. You're moving around, though. You gotta tell me. So let me tell you guys something. The way for me to have handled that would have been to wait, watch him play a chord, and then respond. And that's something, as guitar players, bass players don't have that luxury. A lot of what you can do as a guitar player is listen and then react.
Actually, bass players do have that luxury. Very often the bass players say, play the groove and let me listen to it for a while before I play. It's the same thing, right?
Yeah, but they have to play on the downbeat. They really have to know the song.
It's just going to get ugly.
Let's try that again, and let me do it right. Play the chords, any chords you want, and I'll respond. Oh, see, that was wrong. Here we go. Go ahead.
What he's doing is he's not just playing in the key, but he's also incorporating the chord that's underneath it, right? And so there's a way that when we teach music, the band and we teach in the schools all the time. Tim, one of the things we do is we try to teach the young people that the rhythm guitar player can make the lead guitar player sound like a genius.
True.
So I'm going to play the same note over and over again, and you try to make me sound like a genius.
I'll do it.
All right, good. So basically, I'm going to play a D note, and he's going to go through every chord there is that a D goes against. All right? But it's going to sound like I'm changing notes, but I'm not going to change the note. You're doubting Thomas over here. You're a bass player. Really?
Yeah.
What do you throw a drowning bass player? His SVT top. Oh, yeah. What's the guy with the IQ of 64 say to the guy IQ of 71? Really, what kind of bass do you play? Oh, God, I can really go for it. How do you know there's a bass player at the front door? He doesn't know where the key is and has no idea how to come in. Really, you really want to go here? Really? Why do drummers put the sticks on the dashboard? So they can park in handicap. What do you call a guitar player without a girlfriend? Homeless, yeah. What's a guitar player and an extra large pizza? What do they not have in common? An extra large pizza can feed a family of 4.
Yes, I've heard.
All right, so
okay, you're gonna play.
One note. I mean, come on, Tim, it's just good
That
fun.
actually worked a lot better than I thought it would, but I had a couple of tricks up my sleeve.
All right, so teach him.
So we had D, A over C sharp.
That was good, and you're a bass player. By the way, the bass notes were changing. Did you hear that?
No, I was just playing the D the whole time.
No, you weren't. No. In your band, you are, not in mine. All right.
Okay.
So what go on?
So the bottom end walked down. You saw that, but I was changing the chords up above to make it more palatable, more musical. Then we have A over C sharp, C, G over B, B flat, F over A. And my favorite one, the most dissonant one, I don't even know what to call that.
A beautiful chord.
Yeah. I mean, that's... And then G, D over F sharp. We call that F6, E minor. And then my other favorite one, which is the most dissonant one, it was D sharp, major 7. Really sounded beautiful over his one note. How much credit I'm taking for my chord.
No, with him I'm doing real good. So, we're not expecting that the young people in the room or the people that want to learn this are going to learn it in one day. What we're trying to do is just expose you to the idea that what's going on underneath the solo is really important, but also what you play on top of the chords can change as well. I mean, there's so many extraordinary solos that are playing through changes, right?
Yeah.
So why don't we, if it's okay, can you play to the backing track so they can just get an idea?
I've got two chosen. Pull
All
up
right,
one
so
of them.
can we do the first backing track and let Tim play? You guys want to hear Tim play over a backing track? Okay.
I mean, let me just explain to you guys how I think in a situation like that. I mean, most of the music I play, and I've made my whole living playing very simple music. It's pop, rock, R&B, or soul. And what I try and tell people is that if the music you love is simple, then you don't have to learn everything about theory. But I know enough. I had a guitar teacher who was amazing from age 12 to 14. That's my only schooling. So I took a half-hour lesson a week from age 12 to 14. And he taught me enough theory to where I can make it through, songs, the songs that I love, probably the songs that all you guys love. They're simple enough. So if you're a guitar player, there's just a little bit of stuff that you kind of need to know to get around. It's not, you don't have to learn everything. So the way I approach a solo like this, it's C7 to D7 to E7, basically. And I know that I can get away with pure E minor pentatonic. As long as I land on the chord tones that are E's or B's. Now, if I want to take it a step further, I can start paying attention to the chords. And on the C, I can play in C7. And when it goes to D, I can do D7. And then when it goes to E, I can stress the major. It gets a little Allman Brothers-like that way. So I can either choose E minor or E major. I can ignore the chords or I can pay attention to the chords. Then when it goes to the B, you actually saw me get surprised by that. I actually ended up kind of on a wrong note. And even when that happens, you can use it as kind of a bridge to resolve it to the right note. I think of really three things when I solo, and I always try and change them up. Pentatonic blues, simple melodies, and fragments of chords. So if I use these three concepts and keep changing them up, I can keep my solo from becoming, stale. And generally, if I want to be aggressive, I'll use minor pentatonic. And if I want to be melodic, I'll almost do like a nursery rhyme melody. But right there, I went to the third concept, which is a piece of a chord. When I play, I'm seeing fragments of chords everywhere. I see C here. Goes to D, I see D everywhere. Same thing with E. So if I'm constantly switching between pentatonic blues for aggression, simple melodies, and pieces of chords, I can pretty much do everything I need to do in a solo. Why don't you guys play the next backing track? Yeah, it's all right. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you. So that's pretty much me doing all I know how to do. But I was actually changing keys. E minor, B minor, A minor. And I threw in a C minor there just because it's so fun to have to recover. C minor is really out of the key center. And I know it's going to return to E. The fun part is actually having these dangerous little spots where you might crash and burn. Wherever your hand is, you can find something that's in the key of E. So that's about as jazzy as I get. So a lot of you probably can do more jazz than that, but I was a big fan of Larry Carlton, and that's where I kind of learned that kind of playing.
You know, I come from the East Coast, and we play a little different than the West Coast. And you got when you came to our experience, you heard people from Kentucky playing, you heard people from Florida playing, people from Ireland playing, people from California playing, and the musicians just eat it like food because it's a little different in each place, right? Same like drummers. Drummers all from different towns play a little bit different. Yeah. The drummers from D.C. do not play like the drummers from your town, and both are really good. Yeah. So let me tell you a story, and then we'll have some fun with it, okay?
Okay.
Because it'll be self-explanatory for everybody. We had the opportunity for John McLaughlin to come play with my band, which is just like unheard of. And B.B. King had just died. And so I called John and said, we got to do a B.B. King tune. We got to. And he goes, yeah. And both of us at the same time said, Thrill Is Gone, right? So I had to go learn this tune, which I had never played. And it's in B minor, and it's a horn tune.
Yeah.
And they turned all the horns on the original version way, way down. But it was this big production, right? And there was this lick, Tim. So you play that lick. Okay. So listen, everybody. I'm going to play what he played underneath, all right? And I thought to myself, oh my God, what a genius. He found 3 notes, and every single It's B minor and E minor and F sharp minor and G major 7th, which is just a B minor chord with a G bass.
Right. Yeah.
And then we added, and it just sounded absolutely gorgeous. And not only that, but those all making it all minors, which is not normal in a blues. Usually there's a 7 chord in there, made what the singer sound. When Mia started to sing it, it was in a different ballpark, right? Yeah. And we just started to eat it like food. And here's the great John McLaughlin, and all he wants to do is play The Thrill Is Gone, because there's something absolutely brilliant about it.
Well, the sound of that riff over that chord, it's not correct in a theory, in a way. You would go...
Yeah, but you don't.
But it touches you because
that didn't
it's
sound
not
like BB.
correct.
That was not good.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
Really? You would you go to the major 7th?
I'm saying I wouldn't. That's what's special about it.
Because it's not called for.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, to me, there's a lot there. And what I'd like to do, Tim, is play. I'm going to play at a time, and I'm going to say what the chords are for each of the people, as for everybody in the room, while you're playing, if that's okay with you. So it's going to start with a B minor, okay? E minor. G major 7. That F sharp messed up chord. B minor. And then turn around on the F sharp.
As hard as it was for me to do the second round, I actually felt more and liked it better than when I was going. So, I mean, that's another point. Is
I liked that lick.
It's
you could have thrown that in at the end of
You're right. Well, that's another thing I try and do when I solo is if you just go from extreme to extreme, play something simple and then play a burst of complexity. Just do opposites all the time. It'll keep your soloing, fresh. But the simple approach, a lot of guitar players forget that these days. The simple approach is you can actually get more emotion through it.
Well, he toured on that tune for a few years,
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine being in a marriage and the thrill is gone? I mean, the idea that tune's got problems, but, I happen to be happily married as you are.
Me too.
Now, the thrill for me is not gone.
Yeah.
But I love the tune. So, how about, Tim, I'll play you something, and I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to play.
Okay.
But I will tell you it's in D minor.
All right.
The saddest of all keys.
Now it's your turn. Tuning in front of a room full of people. I recommend it.
second, Tim. Hang on a minute.
I lowered the action on this guitar right before the event because the action was too high.
It was okay when I shipped it.
I'll take this one home and fix it.
D minor.
Okay.
Now, let me explain something I'm doing to everybody. I've tuned the low E down to D. And when you do that, you're making all the bass notes be a whole step lower than you would normally hear it. I know this is a very hard concept for a bass player, but... Now I'm going to throw a curveball at you. I liked it that time too. That's Tim Pierce, everybody.
I got lucky.
I guarantee you, had we just recorded that, you wouldn't have been able to beat it on the next try.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
If you're thinking, you're stinking. And in the end, he's just listening to the melodies, right? In the end, he's not doing the intellectual calculations. He's throwing himself to the wind and letting God speak through his hands.
It's true.
And to me, we call it throwing ourselves to the wind. I mean, in my band, Gary, the bass player in my band, was trained by Dennis Chambers, and Dennis had a rule: never, ever, ever play the song the same the next night. And so he was trained that it was not to be just a cassette deck repeat and play. Yeah. They changed the tempos, they changed how long the solos were. They were all listening to each other, and I got trained in the end. The end of your questions. I've been in Gary Granger school, and he does what you're talking about at lightning speed while he's scatting, and he's scatting the third part that he's not playing, which is not fair and genius at some level I can't deal with. But to be his little student is just fine with me. So isn't that beautiful what he played? And you could hear him playing over the changes, right? And so to me, how many people in this room are 15 years and less? 15 years old and less. So let me speak to all the young people for just a second, or people 18 and less. What you're hearing today is what all the great musicians did. They played through changes to make it sound beautiful. If you've got Brant Marcellus, what was the sax player's name?
Wynton Marcellus?
No, his
Branford Marcellus.
Branford Marcellus. Give him a soprano sax and give him chord changes. He'll make you cry. I mean, because there's a beautiful thing about being able to play through changes, and it's not taught in guitar school the way we're talking about it.
Well, and the thing is, you either have to have somebody working with you or you have to record and play to it. It's a context. So any of you that are practicing the guitar, do yourself a favor, play along with a song, play along with another musician, or record some chords on any device and play along with it. Because until you do that, you're not really playing music, and it's so pleasurable. You can be simple when you're playing something musical, and if you're playing by yourself, that's not going to happen.
So why don't we give them something to practice to that would teach them?
Okay.
So I'll play E minor to C minor.
Yes.
Now they're not in the same key. Let me just show you, okay?
Great.
But if you're young and you can get your buddy to sit there and do that, you'll learn how to play through changes. You want to try that?
Yeah.
Now, if I throw a D chord in once in a while, is that okay with you?
Sure. Yeah, I can handle it.
I started with it. C minor, D, E major, and if you sit there with your buddy or whoever it is and you tell them to play chords that are not normally together and you play through the changes, you might find something beautiful that you learn about how to play through changes.
Well, the funnest moments are when you change keys. So E minor, and then all of a sudden, and that's seeing the C minor right there and seeing the E minor right there. And it'll also actually allow you to learn the whole guitar neck, which is really, it's not that hard to do, but you can actually learn the whole neck, and it doesn't take that long.
All right, so that's not a bad way to start, Tim. That's just not a bad way to start with everybody. By the way, it's you and I are good fun. It's just wonderful to hear you play, Tim.
Thank you.
So I didn't know, Tim, what had happened was somebody in L.A. had gotten their hands on Eddie Van Halen's amplifier, and he was showing me Eddie's amp. It was a guy that was in Bradshaw's building, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And he kept talking about this guy, Tim Pierce, and how good this guy, Tim Pierce, was. And it was you and Eddie. All he wanted to talk about was you and Eddie, and you and Eddie, and you and Eddie. And it's like, I don't know what a Tim Pierce is, but I kind of like it. And I got to meet you, and then brought Brent Mason to breakfast one day. And these two kings met at the table, and the fireworks just started going off. It was so much fun. And you've gotten a chance to play with him at this point, right?
I have. And, you know, Brent, see, that's a great thing. He and I are very different. He's a lot better than I am. But I have a particular thing that I do. I orchestrate and arrange guitar parts on people's songs. I made a career out of it. And the great thing is you don't have to be Brent Mason to have fun playing the guitar. I mean, he's a virtuoso. And when he and I talk, the war stories we can tell about being in the music business are endless.
Yeah, there's lots of war stories.
But he's a phenomenal guitar player.
So let me ask a question. What time are we ending? Because I've got a clock here ticking telling me I'm going to blow in a minute.
Oh, great.
All right, so we have till 3:15. Okay.
Awesome.
All right, good. So is there somebody here that wants to ask a question of Tim? Yeah, right there with the hat. Yes, sir.
Could you go through the strategy on a 2-5-1 progression, please?
I will, and it's not something I do that much.
Can you
so,
repeat? Everybody can hear. Can you repeat?
Oh yeah,
the
so
question?
strategy on a 2-5-1. Okay, so I'll do A minor, and then I'll choose C over D. I would look at it like this. I do know a couple of modes. A Dorian. And then the 5 chord. Can you play these chords for me? Any version of A minor,
Yeah.
D7, G. Even G major 7. Try that.
No, I like A minor.
Okay, so A minor.
And what was the third
D
chord?
major.
What was the third?
G major 7.
G
Which
major
is your B
7?
minor. Yeah. Back to A minor. To D. And then G major 7. Okay, so I should...
But there's a resolve chord missing. What's the next one that resolves
Well,
it?
you want to hear it go to like... You want to hear a song. You're starting to write a song. That's what you're doing. Anyway, you asked a question. Let me see if I can actually answer it. I see...
Oh, I'm sorry.
30 seconds. I'll make it quick.
You, I'm sorry.
I see the A minor here. I see the D here. And then on the G major 7, I can really be free.
Does that answer your question?
So A minor Dorian, D7, and then G major 7. I see the scales, and I also see fragments of chords.
Alrighty then. What movie's that from? Pet Detective. Never mind. All right. So somebody else have a question? You ready?
I love questions, by the way.
Yeah.
How about like a 1-4-5 blues progression?
We just did that. No.
2-5-1. Just say yes, Paul.
Okay, 1-4-5. All right.
What key do you want to be in?
Yeah, you still.
Okay.
I was going to go jazzy.
Okay,
on
great.
you.
Yeah. It's nice to get, like, I can feel, that's the other thing about being a performer is, like, you can get comfortable as a performer with every minute that passes. And now I don't care if you guys hear me go. So it's nice to be able to... Yeah. Anyway. I know you're a good player.
I wasn't trying to be a good player. I was trying to have fun with you.
Why don't you stop?
I like playing guitar.
Stop running your company and just play guitar all the time.
I haven't been in the best mood over the last few weeks.
Yes.
And I was playing in the booths, and somebody walked up to me and says, "You look so happy when you play." And it's true. I don't want to admit it. You love playing guitar.
Well, the other night
you
at
love playing music.
I do. It's cathartic for me. I don't know that it's love, but it's deeper than that, I think. But
really,
never mind.
Well, I need a spiritual lesson.
Yeah.
There's something deeper than love. You have a question?
What are some ways you use more than one note? Also, what do you like octaves or fourths or fifths?
Okay, so
Well,
can I just
Yeah.
do this for a second? All right, so one of the things the Texas guys do. There's no reason you can't play that in a solo. There's no reason you can't do this in a solo. I mean, mean, there's no reason you can't play 2 notes in a solo. You can play all kinds of stuff. So playing 2 notes is nothing but fun. Go listen to David Grissom. He's playing 2 and 3 nonstop, and the whole amp's going, and it just sounds like fun. So play more than 1 note at the same time. By the way, when you bend 1 note against the other, a third bass note shows up. Have you ever heard
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Hear the note go up? Listen. I'm sorry. That sounds good.
Always. It still sounds better now than it did 30
So
years
to
ago.
me, play more than 1 note at the Hendrix. Eddie, more than 1 note at a time. But he was brilliant at leaving the wrong note out. He would leave the third out of a D chord. He would leave out the note that didn't sound good. So if you're going to do it, leave the bad note out. A lot of good guitar players, what they do is they're muting the notes they don't want and only playing the ones that they do want.
I mean, the R&B thing is a good way to talk about it, too.
do it.
Because also, tenths, thirds. I mean, frankly, with guitar, a 2-note thing is almost always more powerful than 3 or 4 notes. But when you talk about Grissom, the reason he does that so well is because he's hybrid picking. So he's constantly going, oh, I'm going to throw in a G chord here and a D chord here. He's constantly using this hand to throw in multiple note stuff. Just watch him do it. It's amazing.
And he likes open strings. Anytime he can find an open string to ring against what's going on.
Oh, that's another good answer. Drones. Absolutely.
So let me show you, just for giggles, okay? Just for giggles. Hang on a second. Check this out. The first chord in Machine Gun took us months to find. Nobody plays it right. And finally, Michael Alt called me. He says, I found the chord. I'm sorry. That's awesome. And you talk about 2 notes? Now, he was a genius, and he came up with this. Hello, McFly, wake up. It took me 6 months to figure out what scale he was playing Machine Gun in. And everybody thinks it's just a jam, but it's not. And the fact that he was tuned to D. And did anybody read on the internet how hard a time I was given about making the Silver Sky a 7 1/4 inch radius because you can't play solos on it? Did you guys hear all that? I thought Machine Gun sounded fine. In other words, it was done on a 7 1/4 inch radius, and Hendrix was fine. So, but there's all kinds of beautiful notes in there, and sometimes the simplest stuff's the most beautiful stuff. I think we answered your question. All right, so there's,
Whether it's specific to a chord progression or a combination of a scale with another chord, what's the most recent revelation each of you had about playing over changes?
Oh, that's a good question, too.
I had a guy, Alan Hines, over the other day, and he was literally... he was soloing in a fashion where he said, if I solo in this certain way, you can actually hear the chords underneath. So check this out. If I go... I can hear C, G, D, A. And that's one thing that you can really do. You can either ignore the chords or you can solo and kind of announce the chords. F, G, A, B flat. And that's probably my most recent, revelation is that you can actually, without any accompaniment, if you play a certain way, you can hear the chords underneath what you're playing.
So I want to answer the question as well, if that's okay. Yeah. So give me a D note. I'm tuned to step down from you, but just give me a D note for a second. All right, hold on a second, Tim. All right, so just swell a C note low. Just swell it. That's harmonic minor. It's basically a major seventh and a minor sixth in a scale. But what the bass player on my band said is, watch this. If I swell a G note instead of a C note, it'll be in the same key, but it'll tell the ear I'm on the 5. But don't do it till I play the first note, okay? Let's see if I can get this right. Here we go. I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong key. Hold on a second. I'm sorry, I'm tuned down. Do it again. So hold on a minute. Whoa. Okay, here we go. Right here.
Fearless.
All right, go.
Fearless.
It doesn't sound like he's playing the 1. It sounds like he's playing the 5 because of the first 2 notes that I played. I got schooled. Gary goes, you have to play the major 7 first and the 6th note second. And if you do that, when I play the G, the world's going to know I'm playing the 5, not the 1. I went, yeah, right, sure. And my mother was cowboy boots to bed. I mean, I just didn't buy it. And we did it loud, and it was powerful and beautiful. And then, we were starting a tune. I'm tuned a whole step down because I was doing machine gun. But who asked the question about the revelation? So to me, that kind of learning where these jazz musicians are starting to tell, they're pounding away on a note, and you think it's the root. Bass player thinks it's the root, but it's not. And a bass player taught me this, which is really wrong. But anyway, I found that absolutely fascinating, what I just did. It's still harmonic minor in C, but the G makes it sound more beautiful. Hello? Wake up. Anyway, somebody else have a question? Yeah, over here.
Yeah, that's just more of an observation, because I'm watching you play up there. And yes, you brought up the idea of knowing where all the chords are, all your Ds, and you also brought up your triads. But I know you can shut your eyes and not even be told what chords he's playing, and you could play along with it. So isn't there something to be said about hearing the notes in your head of where you're going?
Well, we all have different gifts in that regard, and I know musicians who have like photographic memories. They have perfect pitch. For me, it's just doing thousands of songs. You can eventually hear a song on the radio, know what the chords are. I don't exactly know what the key is when I hear a song on the radio, but when I can imagine it, let's say I hear a song, I can imagine, there's a D major, and then they're going to B flat, and then they're going to G minor. So it's literally doing it thousands of times, and you'll get some of that training. But I wouldn't say I could let me try closing my eyes. Would you mind?
Okay, that's fine. We have 45 seconds.
Okay.
All right, so close. Don't look at me.
Okay.
Okay.
All right,
so
because this
all
is a
right,
good challenge.
I'm sorry. Here we go.
I don't think I can do it, really.
So that was an E flat 2 chord that I was playing, which I was trying to throw a loop at him, and he just didn't even.
Yeah, so I
sorry.
suppose
he just beat us all and wiped the floor clean. From the bottom of my heart, everybody give a huge welcome for Tim Pierce being here. Thank you so much, Tim. We had a great time. Good job. Sweetwater, thank you very much. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a great time.